Hello, boys and girls, programmers, and everybody in between. Today, I want to teach you guys about a binary search game. You can play this with friends that aren't familiar with programming or data structures, and you'll blow their minds, honestly. Tell them that you'll guess their number in 6 or less guesses. So, the point of the game would be to ask the other player whatever they're thinking. Then, through a binary search, you'll continually ask whether or not you have gotten to their number. And the game will also keep track of how many guesses you have taken so far. I'm not going to get into the details of a binary search because that's not the point of the vid, but if you're watching this video, you probably already have a good understanding of that data structure. The way the game works is that the user has, or the player has to guess a number between 0 and 99. You can have the range, honestly, to be whatever you want it to be. I'm going to keep it simple and say 0 to 99. Step 0 is to make your buttons look nicer. You can download React Native Elements, the React Native Elements library, by typing in npm install React Native Elements. I'll put it down in the description, and you just want to type that into the project terminal. You don't really need it. It'll work just perfectly fine without it. It just won't look as fancy as mine. The second thing we want to do is you're going to make a new file called components. And then inside of it, no, you want to make a folder named components, and inside of it, you want to make a file called component1. Component1.js. Don't forget to put the extension JS, otherwise it won't read the code. And inside you want to import these top two from the app.js, and right after the React up here, you want to put in brackets component. And then you want to do the following. You're going to do export default, export default class component1 extends component. Do that, and then you want to type in render, the open and close parentheses, and then do brackets. Inside the brackets, you want to return open and close parentheses with a semicolon after, but then inside of it, you're going to put in the view. Put in two views, and then we're just going to put in inside a text inside the view. And we're going to say guess a number between 0 to 99. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, we go back into the app.js and we want to import that component. So we're going to go import component1 from dot slash components, which is the folder name, slash component1, which is the name of our file. And then down here where it says hello welcome, we want to get rid of that whole line and then type in component1, then dash, and it should close it off. And then when you look at the app, it should say guess a number between 0 to 99. Alright, that's perfect. Alright, so now that we got that out of the way, we can work from inside the component1.js file. This just makes it easier to keep your app.js separate from all your other components in case you want to add stuff later on. I am going to import the button from, what was that? From React Native Elements. Right, so the first step then is to start with styles. So I'm just going to copy and paste this const styles from our first app.js and put it here at the bottom. We don't need this whole container block at all, unless for some reason you wanted to do something fancy with it. So inside we're going to put in answer buttons. We're going to make 4 total buttons. Our 4 buttons are going to be yes, no, it's smaller, no, it's bigger, and refresh. And so for the 2 no's, we want to put them on the same horizontal line. We want to align them horizontally. And so to do that, we need to type in flex direction row, just like that. And so I want to make 2 other ones called bigger text. I know, creative. And then we're going to make font size 25. These are just arbitrary numbers. It doesn't matter what you have them. You don't even need this to begin with. It's just what I want for our stylistic choices. It's up to you. And then 15. And just like that. We want to go into our next step, which is, so we want to create a constructor with variable states. So we'll do constructor, open and close parentheses, And then inside this constructor, we're going to put in a superclass or a supercall method. And then under the supercall method, we want to make our states. Or so it'll be this dot state equals brackets. And inside, we're going to have 4 different variables, which is going to be our low, mid, high, and guesses left. These numbers can vary. For my example, I want to keep this simple. So I'm going to have the low as 0. Our mid, so that's incorrect. So our low is going to be 0. Our mid is going to be 50. And our high is going to be 100. And then guesses left is going to be 6. So 6 is equal to log base 2 of 100. Well, it's not exactly. It's 5 point something, I think, something like that. So you will never run out of guesses before you find the player's number. And so this number is, this guesses left variable will change according to your range. So obviously the bigger your range, let's say if you have 0 to 1,000, then the guesses left will not be 6. It will be something different. I think it's 10. Yeah, because log base 2 of 1,000 is 9.9 something. It doesn't matter. You'll need to do some math to figure out what that number is. So just be wary of that when you decide to play around with range. So other than that, if you just do a range of 100, then this should be fine. So right after the asking to guess a number between 0 and 99, maybe we can add a little bit extra on top of it. So we're gonna add another text and just kind of flex your, put your pride on the line. I will read your mind in 6 or less questions. Something like that. It does it. Just make it sound like you're really cocky. Make the players want to really see you fail, you know? We want to change the style. So we want to make this a little bit bigger. So we don't really have to indent it this way. I just like to keep make it a little easier to see what's going on. Again, you really don't need to do this. It's all up to you. So we're gonna do style equals and then in brackets we're gonna do styles dot smaller text. If you think the previous text is too close to this new text, what you can do is separate it with a new line. Right before guess a number, put in brackets, and then inside the brackets put in single quotes, and inside those single quotes put in -n. That should give a space between the two texts. This looks kind of ugly actually, so let me just do that. Usually you don't really need to do this if it's just like one style thing, if it's really small. I just kind of like to do it. And then what I'm gonna do is right after this line, I'm also gonna make a new line. And so this is how you would do it. Okay, and so here's the next part of this. We're gonna do text style equals styles dot bigger text. Bigger text. And then we're gonna do is your number. Okay, so for this part, we're gonna actually be asking what the number is based on what the middle number is. It will constantly be changing and updating as we ask more and more questions. So what we have to do then is put in whatever the state dot mid is. So to do that, we'll do open and close brackets. Then we'll do this dot state dot mid. And so what this does is it just grabs this number up here. So in your application, you will see literally is your number 50. And then we're gonna finish that off with a question mark. I'm very bad when it comes to style. If you wanna, put the guesses in, you would put text, and then you would do, so make a new line, -n, and then you want to do guesses, or guesses left before you win. And then you would do like this, and then similarly to the mid, you also want to grab how many guesses they have left. But guesses is also another number that is constantly changing. You want to do what we did before, which is this dot state dot guesses left. And then after this, you want to do more new lines, just like so. So now you should have 4 lines in your application. You can kind of probably make this code a little cleaner. I know I'm not the best influence. Okay, so the next thing we want to do then is we want to create our buttons and we want to make the functions for our buttons. And so you have a couple different options of where you can put in the buttons or the functions. Okay, so the best place to put in the function is either at the very top or right before this last closing bracket. This is where I like to put it just because that's where I'm more used to it. And so we're going to make 4 different functions. We're going to call user1, and then the way to make the parameters in this language is kind of strange. Unlike Java where you have the 2 parentheses, you will actually do equal sign parentheses, another equal signs, and then an arrow pointing to the right. And then you put a couple opening and closing brackets. And so what we want to do then is copy and paste this because we want to make 4 different functions. So for this first function, we're going to call is smaller. This second function is bigger, and this last function is refresh. And this is the only one we're going to fill in for now, and we'll fill the other ones later. But for this one, we'll call alert. We'll put in some single quotes, close it off, and we'll say U1. I couldn't guess. Oh, I could not guess your number unless and 6 tries. But right now our next step is to make the buttons. So over here we wanna let me just move this really quick, kind of make that look a little nicer. So for here, what we want to do is we want to create, actually no, this looks really ugly. So we want to let's just do this. Let's do that. That'll look a little nice. That'll look a little nicer. There we go. Okay, so our next step is to create the buttons. And so we're going to be using the React Native Elements buttons, which is an actual button rather than just text. Close it such as so. And so we want to give it a title. So this title is going to be whatever text is going to be inside the button. And so we'll call this yes. On press is just how the button reacts to when it is pressed. And so when you press the button, you want to go to the function that it's supposed to correlate with, which is the user1. Then you do open and close brackets, and then you would type in this dot user1, just like so, and paste this 3 more times. So we'll have 4 total buttons. And so for this one, we want to put in, so this one will be our no, it's smaller. And so we'll do onPress dot is smaller. And then this button will be no, it's bigger. And then we'll do this dot user is bigger. For our last button, we'll do refresh game, and then onPress dot equals or dot refresh. Okay, do you remember how I mentioned that we want to keep no it's small and no it's bigger on the same line? Well, that's what we're gonna do, because right now it's all these just four buttons and they're all just on top of each other. It doesn't really look that pretty. So we're gonna make another view, and we're just going to copy, or we're gonna cut these 2 buttons, the two no buttons, the no it's small and no it's bigger, and put them inside the view. And then inside the view, we're gonna make a new style, which is style equals brackets and then styles dot answer buttons. And so what this does is it puts the 2 no buttons side to side. So since all your buttons are meshed together and it's not what you want to do is separate each button with a new line. So you do text, and then inside this text you would do what I taught you earlier, which is the new line, just like this. Then you want to copy and paste that between the buttons. Okay, there we go. Yeah, now you should have space between your buttons. It's kind of long. I know it's not the most prettiest. It's not pretty to look at, but it'll get the job done. The biggest eyesore right now is the 2 no buttons, is that they're touching each other, and we don't want that. So let's make a new text, and here we'll just have a bunch of empty space. Also, we want to move this refresh game button just at the very bottom. We don't want to interact with that until a later time. Right now, as you can see, we have everything. So let's go down here. We're back to these functions. Okay, so in this is smaller function, pretty easy once you figure out one of the is small and is bigger. So I'm from the future and I made some mistakes. So here I am, and I'm gonna tell you exactly how you should create this refresh function. So once again, it's completely optional, but I think it's important to have since it'll let you play the game over and over again. Because most of the time, people want to try to figure out which numbers they can use to trick you and win the game. So right now, I'm going to teach you guys how to change the values inside the states. And so if you don't remember, the states are above, and they're the content right here, this dot state, which equals low, mid, high, and guesses left. And so we want to be able to change that, and we will change that and with the other functions. And so to manipulate the states through a function, it's not hard. It's just weird. So you got to do this. So you got to type this dot set state, and then you do open and close parentheses, and you do brackets just like this. And then you want to close that with a semicolon. And then just like above, I would honestly just recommend that you just copy and paste this right here, because that's exactly what you're going to be resetting it to. Just do that, and that should work. So let's start with the is smaller function first. In the is smaller function, we have to check. First of all, we have to check whether or not we have any guesses remaining. So to do that, we'll do if this dot state dot guesses left equal 0. Oh wait, I lied. Wait, I just noticed. Okay, so in this alert right here, when the user won, it's not the user winning, it's the phone is winning. I'm not gonna change the variable name because I don't want to confuse you. But in here, when you say you won, you actually want to say I win. See, I guess, and then we'll change this. I guessed your number in less than 6 or less tries. So this is you winning. However, the user or the player will never reach this part right here, which is when they run out of guesses. This alert, which is, okay, you cheated. I promise you, users will never get here. They will get here when you get to their number. Sorry about that. I was getting ahead of myself because I'm dumb. Alright, and so we want to do is we want to copy and paste this. We want to put this into the is bigger function as well. If they have more than 0 guesses left, then you'll do else, and then like so. And then I guess you can just copy and paste that down here and kind of get the skeleton ready. Okay, both of these are very, very similar. It's just a couple differences. If you already know how to make a binary search, this should be very, very easy. But if this is your first time coding one, this might be a little strange. Or this is your first time using other states to manipulate another state inside React Native, this might be a little weird as well. Okay, so we all know how binary searches work, right? So when you do a binary search, you want to change. So let's say if it's smaller. So if the number is smaller than 50, then we want to change the high, which is 100, down to the mid, which is 50. So the high becomes 50. Then the mid becomes the average of the low and the high. What you want to do then is this dot set state like before, and then we want to do this similarly. However, no, I lied. So we want to do this dot set state. Here's the biggest difference from the set state that we did in the refresh. So instead of just putting equals and then the brackets, we want to do close and open parentheses and another close and open parentheses. Inside the innermost parentheses, we type in state. Inside the two closing parentheses, we do equals, arrow pointing to the right, and then open parenthesis, open and close parentheses, and then we do brackets. And just like so. So at the bottom here, you should have close bracket, close parenthesis, close parenthesis. And so we're actually going to do this twice. So just copy and paste it twice. And then you want to copy this whole thing and put it down in the is bigger function. we want to change the high down to the mid. And so to do this, we do high, and then we do the colon. And so obviously we don't want to hard code an answer. We don't want to hard code a number, I mean. To dynamically change high, we want to do state dot mid, and that's it. And every time we call this function here, it'll change this high to whatever the current mid was. But now we want to change the mid, and we also want to change how many guesses are left. And so the reason we separate this out, we can't just change the mid in this same function right here, because it'll actually, because to get, okay, so first of all, to get the mid, we need to use high, right? But it doesn't change it right away. It'll use whatever high was previously. So if the high was still 100, and I want to get between 0 and 50, it'll still be 0 and 100 for some reason. I don't know why. It's strange. So what you're gonna have to do is make sure the high gets manipulated first, and then once it's done being manipulated, then we can actually use it later. And so we're gonna do mid colon, and then do parse, and because we're gonna change our number into an int. Actually, I don't think we need this, but we'll see. So state dot high, because we're gonna use the new changed high, and we're gonna add state dot low, and then we're gonna divide that by 2, like so. And then we're gonna do a comma, and then we're gonna also change guesses left. We're gonna decrement it, and so the way to decrement it in this in the set state would be parentheses set. Actually, wouldn't need parentheses, but it's whatever. State dot guesses left -1, just like so. Actually, I lied. Okay, so we can actually use this part right here into this is bigger function as well. So I guess the only real difference in this whole thing is this one part of the code right here. That's it. That's the only difference between these two functions. We'll change this dot state. So we'll change the low, and it'll become the state dot mid, like so. And then that should be it. I dipped into the past really quick to fix this function right here. It should work now. And so when you change the numbers around, you should be able to refresh the game. Yeah, that's about it really. So it's just, and you can obviously make this range a lot bigger. You can make this up into 999. You can make it up to a million minus 1, a billion minus 1. It's limitless, really. The only thing that really you need to keep in mind is the guesses left is log base 2 of your range, and that's really it. You'll impress a lot of people with a game like this, to be honest, especially people that are not familiar with binary searches or are not logically inclined. But yeah, so I hope to see you guys on the next tutorial, and I'll see what I make. Oh yeah, before I leave, give me a little kiss.